So do you want to know why some people's stories, they grip you right from the start? Well, maybe you feel that your stories, they kind of just fizzle out. You see, the number one mistake that I see a lot of entrepreneurs, leaders, and professionals make is thinking that storytelling is just a nice to have. But guess what? Storytelling is the backbone of making real connections. And in this video, I'm going to share with you 4 game-changing storytelling techniques that will boost your confidence and make your communication unforgettable. So if you want to grab attention and keep it, then please stick with me. This is going to change the way that you tell your story. So for those of you that are new to the videos, my name's Anthony Lay. I've been a professional speaker, entertainer, and coach for over the last 15 years. I went from somebody who was quite socially awkward to becoming one of Australia's top corporate speakers and entertainers. And now my mission is to help entrepreneurs and professionals and leaders live what I call a life less ordinary. And one thing that I have learned on my journey is whether you are pitching a business idea, whether you're delivering a presentation, or even posting on social media, it's the stories that you tell that people are going to remember. So let's dive on in. So here's the thing, most professionals, they kind of get stuck here at this storytelling point. They feel that their stories, they lack impact, that they ramble, they missed a point, or maybe that they fail to hold people's attention. And maybe you've been there too. But storytelling isn't just for creatives, it is a skill that I believe anyone can learn. Technique number 1, context and conflict. So here's a secret to storytelling that keeps your audience glued, and that is context and conflict. It's all about balance. You see, you set the stage with the context, the who, the what, the where, the when, and then you throw in some conflict. Something goes wrong. Maybe a challenge suddenly arises and the stakes are raised. Now, instead of me trying to explain this to you, there is a really great clip out there on YouTube that was from the creators of South Park, Matt Stone and Trey Parker. And they've got this really brilliant technique that they use when they're crafting their stories. So let's roll that video and you can check it out for yourself.
What should happen between every beat that you've written down is either the word therefore or but, right? So what I'm saying is that you come up with an idea and it's like, okay, this happens, right? And then this happens. No, it should be this happens, and therefore this happens. But this happens, therefore this happens. And that, as soon as we are able to, and literally sometimes we'll write it out to make sure we're doing it.
How good was that? It's such a simple but powerful framework. It was this happens, but then this happens, therefore this happens. The but, what that does is it introduces a conflict, and then the therefore gives the resolution. So let's make this real. Imagine that you're presenting a new business idea to a room full of, let's say, skeptical investors. Instead of saying, our product is innovative and it'll save you time and it's cost effective, try this instead. Our product is innovative, but the market is flooded with competitors. So we've created a feature that saves time and reduces costs like nothing else on the market. Do you see how much more engaging the second version was? The conflict, it grabs attention, and the resolution, it satisfies that curiosity. So whether you're writing a pitch, whether you're delivering a presentation, or even if you're just crafting an email, remember the but and therefore, they are your secret storytelling weapons. Basically, drop the and then.
No, and then. No, and then. No, and then. No, and then. No, and then. No, and then. Really start to piss me off, lady.
Technique number 2, contrast. Have you ever read or listened to something that felt really monotonous? Like a monotonous drone. It's painful, isn't it? That's what happens when there's no contrast in your communication. Everything is the same, the tone, the pace, or even the sentence length. Without contrast, people, they lose interest really fast. So let me show you what I mean by contrast in writing and speaking using a page from a book by a gentleman called Gary Provost. It was called 100 Ways to Improve Your Writing, and it goes like this. This sentence has 5 words. Here are 5 more words. 5-word sentences are fine, but several together become monotonous. Listen to what is happening. The writing is getting boring. The sound of it drones. It's like a stuck record. The ear demands some variety. Now listen. I vary the sentence length and create music. The writing sings. It has a pleasant rhythm, a lilt, a harmony. I use short sentences and I use sentences of medium length. And sometimes, when I'm certain that the reader is rested, I will engage them with a sentence of considerable length. A sentence that burns with energy and builds with the impetus of a crescendo, the roll of the drums, the crash of the cymbals, sounds that say, listen to this, it is important. So do you see by how adding variety in sentence length and structure, it creates an engaging flow? It's like music for the brain. The short sentences, they grab attention. The medium ones, they give some explanation. And the long ones, they deliver this emotional punch. And this applies to everything, your emails, your presentations, even your video scripts. When you're writing, so if you're writing out a script or an email, make sure that you look at your sentences on the page. And if they all end up at the same place, then this could be a potential red flag. Instead, you want to break them up. You want to write some short ones, a few longer ones, and maybe one that's intentionally very dramatic. Honestly, your audience will thank you for it. Technique number 3, make it conversational. Let's talk about one of the most underrated storytelling techniques, and that is being conversational. Because here's the thing, people, they don't want to feel like they're being lectured or presented to. They want to feel like they're part of the conversation, like you're sharing something with them and not at them. So if you think about how you speak to a good friend, you wouldn't use stiff formal language or rattle off a list of facts, would you? No, because if you were speaking to a friend, you would naturally include pauses. You'd be asking questions. You might even be adding in a little bit of humor. And that's what makes it engaging. That's what draws people in and creates that connection. So here's just a few ways of how you can make your communication conversational. First thing is to ask questions. Instead of just delivering information, ask your audience to reflect instead. For example, you could ask questions like, have you ever struggled with blah, 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 some kind of common challenge? Or you could ask a question like, what's the one thing holding you back from achieving your goals? You see, these questions, they make people feel seen and involved. Another thing that you can do is use relatable language. Skip that jargon and the overly polished phrases. Example here. Let me give you an example. So this is speaking in a non-connective way. Here we go. So we're going to be leveraging opportunities for scalable solutions. That sounds like a presentation. Instead, you could try something along the lines of, let's figure out how to make this work for you. Do you see? And I'm hoping that you feel the difference. The second version, it connects instead. Something else you can do as well is break the fourth wall, whether that's you presenting in a boardroom, whether that's you presenting on camera, you can address your audience directly. It could be as simple as saying something like, if you're thinking this sounds familiar, then you're not alone. Or something maybe like, you might be wondering why this matters. These little nods or even gestures towards the audience, it keeps them engaged, and you'll see little nods of their head to show that they're following along. And if you really want to be able to connect with another person, if you're on camera, for example, and you want to keep it conversational, you want to keep it friendly, is to just imagine that you're speaking to one person, or better yet, actually get a picture of a friend of yours and put it just below the camera. I haven't got one here because you are my friend. But you could just put a picture below and imagine how you would be talking if you were talking to that person. So being conversational, it isn't about dumbing things down. That's really important that you understand that. It's about being approachable and being real. See, when you communicate this way, you break down the wall between you and your audience or the other person. Instead of them thinking, am I being sold to? They'll be nodding along, feeling like you're in it together. That is the magic of conversational sort of storytelling. It creates a connection and it's not just communication. Technique number 4 is connect. Let me ask you this. Have you ever had someone tell you a story and when they were done, you found yourself thinking, why did they just tell me that? You kind of feel like they've wandered off on some tangent and they forgot to bring you along for the ride and you were some weird observer from the outside. That's what happens when a story doesn't connect. It leaves your listener or the audience confused and not captivated. So every story that you tell, it needs to have a reason, it needs a purpose, it needs something that ties back to your message or the point that you are actually trying to make. Now, the easiest way to do this, you ready for this? Because it's really simple. The easiest way to do this is simply say, the reason I tell you this is. So that's it. You tell a story and then you say, the reason I tell you this is, and then you tie it to whatever message you're trying to deliver. That little phrase, that one sentence is like a compass. It shows your audience exactly where you're headed. So let me give you an example. Imagine that I'm sharing a story about the time that I froze during a big presentation. My heart was racing. I could feel every single eye on me. It was just an absolute nightmare. Now, if I just left it there, you'd be wondering, well, okay, that's great. You stood on stage and you got scared, but what's the point? But if I follow up that story with, and the reason that I tell you this is because even though I froze, I learned the power of preparation and storytelling to win back the room, and you can too. All of a sudden, the story connects, it has a meaning. Or let's bring that back to this video. I could say, the reason that I'm telling you about being conversational, using contrast, or creating conflict is because these techniques, they aren't just storytelling tricks, they're how you make people care. And when people care, they listen. And that's the ultimate goal of communication. When you connect your stories to your message, they become memorable, they resonate, they stick with your audience because they feel relevant. So before you tell your next story, ask yourself, why am I telling this story? What is the takeaway? And then share that takeaway with your audience. And the audience is going to create a completely different level of connection between you and that other person or the people in front of you. So all that being said, storytelling is a skill that, as I've said before, I believe anybody can master this with the right tools and practice. And with these 4 tips, you're already on the right path. So if you've enjoyed this video, then please hit that subscribe button. And I've got something really exciting for you in the description below. I've got a free training called Break the Ice, where I show you how to start a conversation with absolutely anybody. The training is just 15 minutes long, but it is super powerful. And there is even a little bonus of a Break the Ice ebook. So all you gotta do is click the link in the description to access it and start building your confidence and communication skills today. I wanna thank you for watching, and remember, your story deserves to be heard. All you've gotta do is get out there and tell it. And then, see ya.